that if you adjust for inflation, 32,000 pounds today would be 985,980 pounds in 2025. That's about £1,000,000. This man collected about £1,000,000 from the community so that he could help young people get to study abroad. Baba chopped the money, right? Baba eventually was sentenced to prison 7 years. This was in 53. Zik ensured that he got a pardon. I just want to give you an idea, when people tell you that they did it because we're trying to fix Nigeria, because when you read, that's why I said that Zogu was a naive young man. Read his speech. He said, oh, there's a lot of tribalism, there's nepotism, there's corruption, that's why they are having it. And then he said he drew up a list of things that should happen in the south and in the east, but nothing happened. So he probably thought that the way they were unaliving people in the north and in the west, they would do the same thing for the easterners living in the west. Because Nwankwo Orizu at the time, this same person who a few years before then was convicted for stealing money and was pardoned by his ethnic person. How exactly do you claim not to be a tribalist, but you are pardoning people all around the place? There's another person he pardoned. I'm going to mention his name. That one, I read about him like 3 days ago when we were talking about Nigerian Railway Corporation. The chairman of the board, his name was Ikechiani. We're going to read something to you. I'm going to read something to you about him as well. You can also find this online, and this is what you can look for. Look for Nigerian politicians and pestilence of forged missing certificates. Before I read that, let me finish this thing with Orizu. Orizu went on to represent his people in the parliament at the federal level. He was in NCNC at the time that he was caught and sentenced. And then Zik ensured that he was pardoned. So when you're looking for corruption, why would you look everywhere else but Orizu? Now, by 1966, Orizu had become the Senate president. As a matter of fact, when Zik ran away, Orizu became the acting president. He was the one who had the power to actually appoint a prime minister. So according to the constitution that Nigeria was using at the time, that's the one after we became a republic, it is only the president that is able to appoint a prime minister. And that's why I read something to you yesterday from the accounts of Richard Akejide, who was a minister at the time, and Shehu Shagari, who was also a minister representing NPC. And what both of them said was that they went to Nwankwo Orizu's house, who was the Senate president at the time, and also the acting president, that they had chosen an acting prime minister where they couldn't find Tafawa Balewa. The acting prime minister's name was called Deep Charima. And so they told him that, listen, you've got to appoint Deep Charima as the substantive prime minister. It's the same Orizu who, for instance, was dragging and eventually said no, that they were not going to appoint, Deep Charima, who is, again, of course, from the north, because NPC had more seats than any other party in 1966 in the parliament. By 16th of January, they were all summoned, which, as far as I'm concerned, Orizu knew what Ironsi wanted to do. Ironsi called a meeting. He was the GOC at the time, General Officer Commanding. He called a meeting, and all of them were there, and he said to them, we can do this as gentlemen, or you can do it the hard way. What do you want? The boys are not smiling. Do you want to hold on to the power? And then they said, you can have it. And so you read Akinjide's own work, and Akinjide said that they did not hand over power willingly. They were bullied and threatened by Ironsi to hand over power, right?